The desert sun was sinking low, turning the sky into streaks of copper and blood orange when Luke McAllister finished checking the last of his cattle pens. He had planned on heading inside for supper, but the soft crunch of approaching hooves stopped him. When he looked up, 3 Apache women sat mounted on lean desert horses, silhouettes outlined by the glowing horizon. They didn't speak right away. They didn't have to. Their presence alone, their confidence, their calm, told Luke this wasn't a social visit. The one in front nudged her horse forward. She was young, maybe his age, with sharp, steady eyes that caught every detail of the world around her. "I am Nalan," she said. Her voice held neither fear nor apology. "These are my sisters, Atsa and Yina. We seek help." Luke took off his gloves and hooked them on his belt, trying not to look surprised. Apache riders didn't come to ranchers unless something serious was happening. "Tell me," he said. "Our water path is blocked," Nalan continued. "The stream that feeds our camp. Someone built a dam. Someone from your people." Behind her, Atsa scanned the ranch yard as though assessing every possible danger, while Yina seemed more curious than wary, studying Luke's tools, his horses, his work-worn hands. They were not lost or desperate. They were determined, and Luke respected determination more than he respected most men he knew. "Who built it?" Luke asked. "Squatters," Nalan replied. "Men who came weeks ago. They say the land is not ours, that water belongs to anyone who claims it." Luke's jaw tightened. He'd heard rumors of new settlers pushing too far east, men who didn't care whose land they stepped on. The kind who believed possession was 9/10 of the law, even when the land was never theirs to begin with. "How long has the stream been blocked?" he asked. 4 days, Yina answered softly. "Our elders ration what water we have. The horses have enough for now," but she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Luke grabbed his saddle from the fence without a second thought. "Show me." The sisters exchanged quick glances, approval, relief, maybe surprise at how fast he agreed. But Luke had been raised on land where neighbors, no matter who they were, helped each other or everyone suffered. And he had learned early that trouble ignored only grew sharper teeth. They rode out before the sun fully dipped. Evening wind cooled the sweat on their backs as they crossed open plains turning dusky purple. Nalan rode beside Luke, telling him what little they knew about the settlers. 5 men, all armed, led by Ward Granger, a name that made Luke's stomach knot. Ward was trouble wrapped in skin, a man with a temper and a thirst for easy gain. Luke listened closely, asking quick, precise questions: how large the dam was, whether the men had threatened the sisters, whether the stream's flow had changed dangerously. Nalan noticed his sharp mind, the way he mapped the land in his head as they spoke. Most ranchers relied on muscle first. Luke used his brain. By the time the moon rose and silvered the desert, Luke understood the full risk: a stolen stream, a desperate camp, and a greedy man at the center of it. But he also understood something else. The sisters had come to him because they believed he'd do what was right. And he intended to prove them right. At dawn, the canyon looked carved from fire, the rising sun painting the walls in bands of red and gold. Luke, riding beside the 3 sisters, felt the air grow cooler as they descended toward the narrow riverbed. He could already hear the low, unnatural hush of water trapped behind something it didn't belong behind. Streams in this land weren't meant to go silent. When they turned the last bend, the problem stood right in front of them. A hastily built dam, thick with packed mud and logs, stretching across the stream like a scarf. Water pooled behind it, deep and tense, waiting for the smallest mistake to burst free. The ground beneath Luke's horse felt wrong, soft, over-soaked, tremoring with trapped pressure. A group of settlers stood guard. 4 men leaned on rifles. One stood proudly in the center, arms crossed, chin raised like he owned the entire canyon. Ward Granger. Luke's stomach tightened. He had hoped it would be anyone else. Ward flashed a grin when he recognized him. "Well, if it ain't McAllister," he drawled. "Didn't expect you to show up escorting Apache ladies. New business venture." Nalan stiffened beside Luke. Atsa's eyes narrowed. Yina's grip tightened on her reins. None of them spoke. Their silence was sharper than knives. Luke kept his voice level. "Ward, you block the water. That stream feeds their land. You know that." Ward shrugged. "Finders keepers. This is good water. I need it for my crops." "You don't have crops," Luke said flatly. "You barely planted anything this year." Ward's smile faltered, then hardened. "Maybe I'm starting now." Luke rode forward a few steps, examining the dam. It wasn't just illegal, it was stupid. The pressure behind it was too great. "This thing won't hold. You didn't build it right. If it bursts, it's going to flood the canyon and wipe out half your grazing field." Ward barked a laugh, but the men behind him shifted uneasily. They weren't stupid. They could see the strain in the swollen waterline. They could hear the faint groaning of logs under pressure. Luke turned his horse slightly so the men could all see the crack near the top. "Look at that. One good shake and this whole thing goes." To prove the point, Atsa picked up a small stone and flicked it with precise aim. It struck the crack with a sharp snap. The dam trembled, mud crumbled, a thin trickle of water streamed down. Ward flinched. His men took a step back. Luke pointed at the widening leak. "If this breaks while you're standing here, you'll be swept halfway to the Rio Grande. And if it breaks later, you'll lose every inch of land downstream." Ward's face reddened, torn between pride and fear. "So what are you proposing, rancher boy?" "Let us take it down properly," Luke said. "We'll guide the water back into its natural path. No damage, no trouble. Nayland spoke, her voice calm but iron strong. We only want the water that has always been ours. The settlers exchanged nervous looks. One murmured, Ward, he's right. This thing ain't stable. Ward clenched his jaw, spit into the dirt, and jerked his head. Fine, take it down. But you caused trouble, I'll blame you. Luke didn't rise to the bait. Trouble comes from men who start it. With Ward stepping back, Luke and the sisters got to work. They moved with coordination. Luke using his knowledge of the land, the sisters using their understanding of the stream's natural flow. They removed logs one by one, cutting channels to release pressure gradually. Mud splashed, water surged, and the morning sun glimmered off the restored current. By midday, the stream was running freely again, exactly where it belonged. As they rowed back toward the sisters' camp, the land around them felt different, alive again, as if the restored water had breathed a spirit back into the dry earth. The stream wound across the plains like a silver thread, catching sunlight and scattering it in tiny sparks. Birds dipped low to drink. Horses snorted with renewed energy. Even the wind carried a cooler edge, brushing over them like a quiet thank you. Luke rode with his hat tipped back, letting his horse choose its own pace. The sisters followed in an easy formation, no longer tense, no longer bracing for confrontation. Atsa rode ahead, scanning the land with her habitual alertness, but even she seemed more relaxed now. Yina kept stealing curious glances at Luke, clearly fascinated by the way he understood the land the same way they did. And Nayland, she rode quietly beside him, studying him with a thoughtful calm that made Luke more aware of her than he wanted to admit. You handled Ward better than I expected, Nayland said finally. Luke huffed a small laugh. Handling Ward is like handling a drunk bull. Best to move slow, keep your voice steady, and hope he doesn't run himself into a wall. Yina giggled softly. Atsa smirked over her shoulder. Even Nayland's lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. It was the first one he'd seen from her, and it caught him off guard, warm and strangely welcome. What would you have done if he refused? Atsa asked. Found another way, Luke said. A smart one. One that didn't end with bullets flying. Nayland tilted her head. Most men believe bullying is strength. Luke shrugged. Most men aren't very good at thinking. His honesty made Yina laugh again. Nayland gave him another look. Longer this time, assessing him not as a rancher or outsider, but as someone whose words carried weight. By the time they reached the sisters' camp, the afternoon sun stretched shadows long and thin across the sand. Smoke curled from a cooking fire. Children splashed at the edge of the newly restored stream, their laughter breaking through the stillness of the desert. Elders stood waiting, faces lined with age but eyes sharp with gratitude. The sisters dismounted first. Nayland spoke to the elders in Apache, her voice steady but warm. She pointed toward Luke as she explained what had happened, the negotiation, the danger of the dam, the work they'd done to restore the water. The elders nodded, murmuring among themselves. Luke stood by his horse, hat in hand, unsure how much space he should take. He wasn't used to attention. He preferred fixing fences, quiet sunrises, and peace with his neighbors. But when the elders approached him, offering thanks and respectful gestures, he bowed his head lightly. You helped us today, Nayland said, stepping closer. Her voice was softer now, not because she was uncertain, but because she no longer needed to guard it. You used your mind instead of your fists. That is rare. Luke rubbed the back of his neck, stumbling for words. I just did what made sense. Atsa crossed her arms playfully. For a rancher boy, you did more than most. Yina added, and you faced Ward without fear. Luke chuckled awkwardly. Oh, I was scared. I just didn't let him see it. Nayland's eyes held his for a moment, long enough that Luke felt the air shift, quiet and steady, like a promise forming without words. She nodded slowly. You stand strong in the right way. The water shimmered in the distance, flowing freely again. The desert seemed to settle around them, peaceful for the first time in days. And though Luke didn't say it aloud, he knew something had changed, between him and the sisters, between him and the land itself. The stream wasn't the only thing that had been set back into its natural place.